Connecting. Welcome to today's episode of Go There on Fourth, a Christian podcast about faith, football, and fantasy football. I'm Pastor Jason Barnett, a.k.a. the Dirt Path Pastor. For the record, I am not so much a football expert. I am more of a football junkie. You can ask my wife, who's our special guest today, how much of a football junkie I am. How big of a football junkie am I?
Too much of one.
And what this podcast is, as I journey through this fantasy football season, I'm sharing with you my struggles in setting my lineup, maybe some pointers, good or bad pointers, but they're mostly bad pointers considering my team's 1-5. And that's what we do on Thursdays. And then Tuesday episodes, we run it back, we recap it. But today is Thursday, so that means we are going to be making some picks for Week 7. And I just introduced my guests, and just so she knows, I am 52-41 this season on making my game picks. So I've got 52 right and 41 wrong. But the one thing is, I'm 2-0 versus guests. I've taken down Andy Newman. I've taken down Christian Bishop. But now I'm up against my wife. So I don't know what the consequences are for winning, but I want to find out. So
We'll just have to see how that works out.
All right. So with that being said, we're going to get started with our game picks. We're going to start with the Thursday night, early Sunday matchups. First game is the Saints versus the Cardinals. I went back and forth on this game, mainly because Kyler Murray in that offense, at some point they're going to get it figured out and get it going. And I also know the Saints offense is super banged up. We're not even sure, I think they came out and said Andy Dalton will start now. However, even he's banged up on the offensive side of things. And I know the Saints defense has kind of been middle of the pack this year. They've not lived up to what the predictions were, but I think that's partially because the offense hasn't quite been what we thought it was going to be. But with that said, I'm still picking the Saints to beat the Cardinals because I'm just not a big Cardinal fan.
And see, I'm actually the opposite. I'm going with the Cardinals. I don't think that the Saints defense can hold up. It's great to have a defense, but you have to have a good offense, or at least a decent one, in order to compete. So I'm saying that the Cardinals are going to come out with the win this week.
All right, we're deferring right off the bat, but Christian and I did that right off the bat last week, and it didn't work out for him. So.
Well, we'll just have to see.
Okay. All right. Next up, Falcons versus the Bengals. The Falcons just beat the 49ers. They intercepted Jimmy G 2 times. And again, they're playing. They were supposed to be a team that's tanking this year to get a high draft pick. They cleaned house. They got rid of Matt Ryan. Changed the coaching staff. But again, they're 3-3, and they just beat the 49ers by 2 touchdowns. But with that being said, I'm picking the Bengals. Going against Joe Burrow is a completely another story. I just think now that offensive line is gelling and the offense is just starting to get rolling. So Bengals.
I'm the same. I don't think that the Falcons are strong enough to pull it out this time.
Okay. So. Next up, we have the Lions versus the Cowboys. And man, this one again makes me gross to pick it. I hate saying it. Keep in mind, my son plays for their flag football team, and I still haven't said it all season. Our son plays for that flag football team. But the Lions don't have the defense. They haven't really stopped anybody defensively. Prescott's returning, and to be honest, if Prescott returns, he's got something to prove. Cooper Rush came in and went 4-1 during the stretch while he was away. So I think Prescott's going to come in with a reason, fired up, and the Cowboys are going to get a big win this week.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be an easy win, but I definitely do agree. I think it'll be the Cowboys this week.
Okay. Next up, we have Colts versus the Titans. And again, for those of you who have just joined us and have never listened to this podcast before, now I grew up just south of Indianapolis. I was a Colts fan before Peyton Manning showed up, so I survived the terrible couple of years there. But I will always pick the Colts to win no matter who they're playing against. And sometimes I don't do it because I actually believe they're going to win. I do it because my fandom requires that of me. That's how I am Colts, even though I've never been to a game. Just throwing that out there. But with that said, I actually think the Colts can win this one. I mean, as slow of a start as we've gotten off to, this is a big game for the division lead. Our offense is starting to come together. And as poorly as we played, this game is to take the lead in the division. So I'm picking the Colts.
Yeah, I'm going the opposite on this one. It might be partially to bug you, but I do think that the Titans are strong enough to pull it out. So, yeah, I'm going with the Titans.
Yeah. I would say you're doing it to suck up to the people living in our community, but they're all Bengals fans, so.
Yeah, they don't care.
They don't care. Although we do have a high number of Steeler fans, too, which I don't understand.
It's strange.
And keep in mind, we lived in Pittsburgh for a long time.
And we didn't have any.
Not nearly the little fan base that's here. All right, next up, Packers versus the Commanders. I know the Packers are your team. Why are the Packers your team? Why don't you tell them that?
My family are Bears fans, and I am a rebel. That's the main reason.
Yeah. I'm sure her family just loves it, that fact. So
they're in denial. I don't think they know.
All right, the Packers versus the Commanders. I want to pick the Commanders, but I remember I watched Thursday Night Football last week. And whoever is in charge of scheduling the Thursday Night Football games, please, for the love of God, do better. I'm praying that this game tonight is not the same snooze fest. But anyway, I watched Thursday Night Football last week, the Commanders versus the Bears. And it wasn't quite as bad as the Colts and the Broncos, but it was still pretty bad. I mean, it was not very good football. But again, as much as I want to pick the Commanders, even though they're at home, there's just something about it to me where I think the Packers are going to bounce back this week. I know I said that last game after they lost in London, but then they came out and they got beat by the Jets of all teams. But at some point, Aaron Rodgers and them are going to get it together, in theory. And I think the Commanders are just that team that's reeling, not just from play on the field, but reeling with all the distractions going on from their ownership questions and things like that. So I'm picking the Packers in this one.
See, as much as I wish I could pick the Packers, I'm going with the Commanders. You can't ever underestimate the mental state of a team after a losing streak like they've been dealing with. And although the Commanders, they don't have their starting QB, their backup was a former starting QB, and so I'm saying that he has the capability to keep his team up and keep them encouraged, and so I don't think it'll be an easy win, but I definitely think that the Commanders are going to be coming out with the W this week. Awesome.
So we split again.
Mm-hmm.
We split a lot of these so far.
And I didn't choose to pick loyalty over.
That's because you're not a real fan. Real fans stick to their team no matter what. They believe against all hope.
Hey, I will root for my team no matter even if I think they're going to lose.
Gotcha. All right, next up we have the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers. That was bad. The Buccaneers. Although they might as well be playing hockey right now. That's how bad their offense is doing. The Buccaneers versus the Panthers. And let's be serious. The Buccaneers are going to win this one.
Yeah.
The Panthers have no coach. They have Baker Mayfield as their quarterback, who's probably still living in the stadium in Cleveland at night. But, yeah, Buccaneers.
Yeah. I have no commentary for that one. Just Buccaneers.
Buccaneers. All right. Giants versus the Jaguars. Again, as a loyal Colts fan, if there's one team I hate the most in the league outside of the Patriots, it's the Jaguars. They're that team that's just been the thorn in our flesh since they became a team in the league. I just despise them, and it brings me great pleasure to say I'm picking the Giants. And the reason I'm picking the Giants over the Jaguars is the Giants' defense is a strong blitzing defense going up against a young Jaguars quarterback. And yes, I know at Clemson he faced pressure and blitzing like that too, but he's not faced it at the level of the NFL, where the guys are so much faster, stronger, more athletic. Now, the question I do have that does have me concerned a little bit about this one is, can the Giants run the ball against the Jaguars? And remember, the Colts beat the Jaguars last week, but they had to throw the ball almost 60 times in order to do that. I don't think that if the Giants have to throw the ball 60 times to win, that means they're trusting Daniel Jones as their quarterback to do it, and I don't think he is worthy of that kind of trust. However, I am confident in Brian Daboll and that Giants system to find some way to be able to get Saquon Barkley the ball and get that running game going, or maybe rely even on a shorter passing game to get the W. But I do think the Giants are going to win this one.
I agree. I did read a few commentaries about what other people would say, and it was leaning strong towards the Jags for some reason, but I can't get past the losing streak and the winning streaks of the teams, and the Giants are coming in hot. Again, they're going to have to be going against a strong defense, but I do think that they can pull it off.
Okay. We agreed on something.
Finally.
That's right. We do agree occasionally. All right. Next up, the Cleveland Browns versus the Ravens. I don't know why in my notes I put Cleveland, didn't even give them their team name. Because if you look at my notes, I give the team name, right, like the Browns versus the Ravens, but here I just put Cleveland versus the Ravens. I don't know if
they're just not worthy of a name.
No. This one's gonna probably make a few people upset or surprised, but I'm picking the Browns, just because the Ravens defense is terrible. This is not the Ravens defense I grew up watching as a kid. They don't have Ray Lewis. Yes, they invested some money in that secondary. Yes, they have a former Notre Dame Fighting Irish player in that secondary, and Kyle Hamilton. But the Ravens just aren't playing good football. They're right now they're that team that keeps seeming to find a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Right? They're getting ready to win the game, and they find some way to blow it down the stretch, including Lamar Jackson, who is actually playing to get a bigger contract, and he's really impacting his agent, which is himself, in the process to do that. And I just don't know. I trust him in a close game on the game on the line. And the Browns have been in a lot of close games this year. And I think it's a divisional matchup, so you know it's going to be a close game because of that fact. I just think the Browns' rushing attack will get it done. And I think Jacoby Brissett's ability to protect the ball and just make those timely plays in the passing game will enable the Browns to get the win here.
Yeah. In my notes, I did put that I picked the Ravens, but that's just because I don't want to admit that I think the Browns can win. But yeah, doing my own research, I definitely agree. The Browns have been in several close games, and I do think that they can pull it off. But again, I'm choosing the Ravens just because I don't want to admit that the Browns could win.
She's allowing biases to influence her decision making.
Well, it's also partially Raymond.
Yes, we have a former pastor that we served under that is a huge Browns fan. Although I don't know if he admits that publicly.
Yes,
he does, but so I guess he's not ashamed of it, but he should be. All right.
Yes.
All right. So like I said, this is a podcast about faith, football, and fantasy football. So the faith aspect, we share usually a short devotional in here. I've asked my wife Nicole to share a devotional this week, and part of the reason I wanted you to come on here too is to let people know that fantasy football isn't just for guys, and it's for everybody. Everybody can play fantasy football and have a good time and enjoy the community that fantasy football brings. But I also wanted you to come on and just share the gospel, share what the Lord has laid on your heart.
Sure.
So.
Well, as Jason mentioned earlier, our son is part of a flag football team, and he's 6 years old, and I'm pretty sure he has ADHD. He is very active but very easily distracted. So while he was playing one game, his coach told him that he wanted him to run the ball. Well, he told Ben to go left after getting the ball and run to the outside, but Ben only heard run.
Yes.
After you get the ball, run.
Yes.
Ben turned right.
Yes.
The rest of the team went left and Ben went right, and so all of his blockers were on one side of the field and Ben was on the other side of the field, and so it was very easy for the other team to grab a hold of his flag and end the play.
Yeah, he faked the wrong team out. He faked his own team out, not the other team.
Yes.
It was hilarious.
Needless to say, he was very discouraged, but, he wasn't paying attention, and so he ended up messing up and falling short of what the goal was. But in Hebrews chapter 2, 1-3, it says, "Therefore we must pay closer attention to what we have heard, so that we do not drift away. For if the message spoken through angels proved to be so firm that every violation or disobedience received its just penalty, how will we escape if we neglect such a great salvation? It was first communicated through the Lord, and it was confirmed to us by those who heard him." Just like 6-year-old Ben struggling to focus on the instructions of his football coach, it's very easy for us to become distracted when it comes to the instructions provided for us by God through Scripture, because we're just so focused on other things. We are concerned about our agendas and our interests and our self-interests. So we only really pay partial attention. We hear a verse here or there and we decide to base entire theologies and doctrinal understandings upon, 1 or 2 verses, when in reality that's only paying partial attention. We're hearing part of the instruction, but in the end we're going to end up running the ball the wrong way.
That's right.
So because of this, we end up with lawless practices within the church, abusive theologies, limiting doctrines, and ultimately a completely flawed understanding of the character of the God we're supposed to be emulating. So, when my son failed to focus on the coach's instruction, it cost his team a single play. But if we fail to pay closer attention to what God has for us in Scripture, if we fail to read the context of the instructions and understand the deeper meaning behind it, it will cost us a lot more than a stupid little play in a football game. It'll cost salvation. It can cost salvation. It might not always, but it can. And so let's pay closer attention. Let's dig into those passages and understand what the one verse is really saying through the whole of the context. Because otherwise it could cost us, and ultimately the people around us who are following our instructions and our guidance and our leadership, it could cost them the game. Mm-hmm. It could cost them their salvation in Christ and ours.
Absolutely. So. Well, if you enjoyed that devotional, thank you, Nicole, for sharing with us. I'd love be sure to check out Ravenna Church of the Nazarene. You can find us at ravnaz.com. We're located at 530 Main Street in Ravenna, Kentucky. I serve here as the lead pastor, and Nicole here is my associate. Our services start Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. We'd love to have you join us either in person, or you can check us out on Facebook and catch the live feed. And if you enjoyed Nicole's message in particular, she will be preaching her first sermon here. Not her first sermon ever, but her first sermon here at this church. The first Sunday in November. I can't remember the date exactly, but the first Sunday in November she'll be preaching. So be sure to come in and check that out. And Nicole, why don't you tell us too what else you're working on? I know you have a podcast called Women Behind the Pulpit, and share a little bit. I know you're getting ready to go through a kind of a retooling, design of that brand. So.
Yeah. Well, previously the Women Behind the Pulpit was a place for me to share, my theological thoughts and share my sermons and things that I'd shared in the past. However, I have decided to retool it, refocus it, and focus mainly on emboldening and empowering women in ministry, and focusing on how we can better affirm women to serve in whatever capacity God has called them, and maybe even other groups too. Other groups who have felt isolated or shut out by certain churches, and encourage them to boldly go where God is calling them to go. Sorry for almost stealing Star Trek line there, but
Right.
So if you or anyone else would like to provide input or ask questions, recommend a book for a review or whatever, I would love to hear from you. You can reach out to me at womanbehindthepulpit@gmail.com and ask any questions that you have, provide comments, and yeah, I'd love to get your input to reach as many people as I possibly can. So.
Awesome. All right. Well, be sure to check that out. I'm not sure when your first episode is going to drop along those lines, but
that'll be happening at the first of the year.
Yeah. So be on the lookout for that. All right. Let's move right along into our late Sunday afternoon games. There's 4 of them this week because no one's playing in London. So that's good. Anyway, so first up we have the Jets versus the Broncos. And I think with the Broncos being at home, again, I'm actually really surprised that this isn't a primetime game. Considering the primetime game choices, it's either the Broncos or the Cowboys. For the love of God, pick somebody else. But this seems like a prime candidate. This one probably could have been the Thursday night game this week, but they thought, no, we don't want to overdo it with excitement. But Broncos, I think this one they're going to be at home, and I think the volleyball gets it going. And by the volleyball, I mean Russell Wilson at quarterback. So I'm picking the Broncos to beat the Jets, even though the Jets are 4-2. Their defense is playing well, although I don't think the offense is as strong. Although they did beat the Packers last week, so let's be quiet. So I'm picking the Broncos.
See, I'm going with the Jets. If Wilson was completely healthy, I would say yes, but honestly, he's still recovering, and I mean he's still questionable to play. He's questionable to play, but even if he does play, I can't say that he's going to be able to give 100%, and so I'm going to go with the Jets. I do think that the win margin will be very small, but I do think the Jets are going to come out with it this week.
Awesome. Yeah, I had forgotten Russell Wilson's hurt and may not play this week. So that might change the landscape of this game. I'm not going to change my pick because I'm too lazy. So, all right. Texans versus the Raiders. The Raiders are way too talented of a team to be at 1-4. They have a good quarterback. They have a good receiving core. They have an okay-ish defense. And Josh Jacobs has been playing like a beast this year. And while the Texans aren't completely horrible, they've only won once too, and they've tied one. I just don't think they have enough to get it done against the Raiders in Las Vegas. I don't. I think the Raiders pull this one out.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, their record's pretty poor too, but I would say that they're the stronger team here. Their loss margin hasn't been that big. It's only been like up to 6 points, was it?
Yeah.
But the Texans haven't really been impressing anyone lately.
No.
So I'm gonna go with the Raiders. I think they can pull it out.
Good choice. I didn't see who she picked ahead of time. I didn't help her with her picks at all, as you can probably tell. So, the Seahawks versus the Chargers. The Seahawks are playing way better than anyone ever expected them to. Geno Smith seems to be fitting into the Seahawks offense really well, and I think again it goes back to Pete Carroll and his time in service, his years it's been as a coach, both at the pro level and the college level, and just knowing how to shape a team to its strengths and particularly shape an offense to the strengths of his quarterback. And they're kind of doing that with Geno Smith. So Geno Smith is shining. However, I don't think they're going to beat the Chargers. I think the Chargers are going to be at home, and there's just way too many weapons on offense. And Keenan Allen is supposed to be back this week, which I'm thankful for. But I'll explain that. Yeah, I'll explain more later. But I'm picking the Chargers in this one.
Yeah, I agree. I was on the fence, I'll be honest, but I did pick the Chargers because again Keenan's back, and I think they will be the ones to pull it out this week.
Awesome. All right, Chiefs versus the 49ers.
Kansas City.
The 49ers, they've been playing tough. Again, tough defense. Jimmy G just seems to find a way to win, except for against the Falcons, where he threw 2 interceptions. But the Chiefs are coming off that lost to the Bills last week, and they kind of made some mistakes down the stretch that cost them the game. I just don't see them making those mistakes 2 weeks in a row. So I'm picking the Chiefs in this one. I think Mahomes and Reed find a way to get back on the winning track. So
I agree.
So Chiefs on this one.
Yep.
All right, now we're going to move on to a section called My Team Struggles. And this is me sharing with you my lineup for this fantasy football season, what decisions I'm struggling with trying to make to get ready for this week. And Nicole's in the same league with us. We're in a 12-team PPR league with some custom scoring, some other church folks and friends. My custom scoring, it's you get some points for completions, points for targets, points for carries. And by points, I mean it's like a tenth of a point for those things. You don't get full points. It's because I hate ties. But anyway, what's funny in this right now is my team is sitting at 1-5, and Nicole's team is at 5-1. So perhaps she should be the one doing this Go There on Fourth podcast, and I should be the guest.
I just play the numbers.
Yeah, she does a good job though. I've taught her too well.
Yes, you have.
But so I'm gonna go through my lineup, but you're welcome to jump in as I'm going through each position group and share what you're struggling with or decisions you're trying to make. At quarterback, I've actually made a change this week. Last week I had to start Zach Wilson because my normal starter, Derek Carr, was on his bye week. But I just wasn't quite ready to put Derek Carr back in the lineup yet. Because, again, while he's not been terrible, he's been averaging about 50 points a week in our league. I felt like there were some better options out there who were on bye last week. And lo and behold, I found Matt Ryan. Fun fact, Matt Ryan has only had one game this season scoring less than 50 points in our league. And that's including all of his fumbles and interceptions he's thrown. And on top of that, this last week in our league, he was the highest scoring quarterback out of anybody. And he was a free agent. So I picked up Matt Ryan, and I put him in the starting lineup. And here's the other thing I'm excited about. It was only in week 1 that the Titans defense kept a quarterback under 50 points. And that quarterback was Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones, we all know, is not a fantasy football stud. He's probably in everyone's free agency, and nobody's going to pick him up unless your options are Zappy or Jones. So I'm pretty excited about this pickup for Matt Ryan, this change. So
I'm sticking with my QB.
and yeah, she's got Kyler Murray, so that helps. He doesn't watch game film, but he puts up numbers, so that's what matters.
You and I were talking about earlier, though. I'd be impressed to see the results if he actually did Duke. If he did watch game film.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can't. Just, if it's not broke, you don't fix it. So
it's true.
Maybe it'd harm him.
All right, for my running back one, I have Austin Eckler on the Chargers, and they're going to go up against the Seahawks this week. The Seahawks defense has surrendered 995 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns through 6 games. I am excited about this matchup because not only will Eckler, he just ran for 200 yards a couple weeks ago against a little bit better of a defense. I want to say it was against the Browns, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But now he's going against the Seahawks and their terrible defense. And not only can they not stop the run, they can't stop anybody throwing it either. And Austin Eckler is going to double dip. So I'm expecting a big game out of him.
Let's just hope he doesn't underestimate the Seahawks and actually still gives it his all.
Yeah, hopefully.
I might have just jinxed it.
Don't jinx my team, please. We can't take any more of those things. I'm at a point where I have to win games.
I had Travis winning this week.
Yes. See, there's 3 Barnetts in our fantasy football league. There's me, my wife Nicole, and my brother Travis. I'm playing Travis this week. It's one of 3 Barnett Bowls. And this first one is the Barnett Bowl, but the sibling edition. And he's projected to beat me, but we'll get to that. I'm hoping to win this one. I got to have bragging rights. But the funny thing is, I'm 1-5, but he's 0-6. So
he needs his win.
This is the battle for the last place team in our league. So for my running back 2, I have Jamal Williams on the Lions. I am so thankful he's back. I did see a report today that Swift is hoping to get back, but even with Swift coming back, Williams has done enough for this offense. He's solid enough of his back. Even if he's down to RB2, I'm still confident leaving him as RB2 in my fantasy lineup. ESPN has Dallas ranked 9th against rush. the rush. But I think that's kind of skewed from some of their lesser opponents they've played. What you need to go look at is when they played Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, Washington, and Philadelphia, all three were able to run the ball against them. And I think the Tampa Bay and the Washington teams were a very, very telling one because they run a similar style of offense to what the Lions do. So if Tampa Bay and Washington were able to do that, I think the Lions will be able to at least move the ball on offense, running the ball. I don't think they're going to throw it very well, but I think they'll be able to run it. So, all right, receiver 1, I have Tyreek Hill, and he's going up against the Steelers, and this is another matchup I'm really excited about because the Steelers are ranked 32nd against receivers. So this ought to be a good game in theory. So and Tua's back. After being knocked out with a concussion for a couple weeks, he's finally coming back. And so the offense can kind of get back on track and get going from where they were at the beginning of the season. So
actually, this is one position where it's like I picked the opposite.
Yeah.
For who was going to win. I have Amon-Ra St. Brown, and he's been my top scoring wide receiver this whole season. He's been awesome. Except last week when he was last 2.
I think so. Last 2.
Yeah, when he was out, but yeah, he's been pulling it out for me and doing really awesome. And I really wanted to pick the Lions just because he's on it, but can't do that for that. So yeah, so I'm hoping that he still has a good game even against the Cowboys.
Hopefully.
Yes.
We'll see how it goes.
I'm
but
hoping.
again, sometimes when you have a stud player, no matter who they're up against, you have to leave them in. You don't really have an option. Unless you have another option. But if you don't have another option, that's all you have.
My entire bench is on bye this week.
Yeah. And that's what happens when you hit these midweeks of the season. You get the buys going on, and if you're in a 12-team league or higher, your free agency is a ghost town. So for league managers watching this, one of the things you can do to kind of help prevent that, which I try to do because normally we're using the ESPN app, and they set your bench up with 8 or 9 players, which is the standard, and I cut it down based on the league size to 5. And even then, we're still having trouble. So one thing you can do, though, is try and cut that bench down, and that kind of increases the players that are available and keeps people that maybe are having a tougher time, keeps them a reason to keep coming back and keep playing to finish out the season. If they'll have enough of a competitive edge to keep you there. So you know how some people are. They quit and they want to go home. They're like Eric Cartman. Anyway. All right, receiver 2. I made a change here. For the first time since week 1, I'm putting Keenan Allen in. He's been questionable every week. He's still questionable somewhat this week, but he's expected to play.
Yes.
And I was talking to my brother about this week. He has Russell Wilson as his quarterback. And I actually drafted Russell Wilson, but I felt bad for my brother because his only quarterback on his roster because he missed the draft was Justin Fields of the Bears.
Oh no.
And so I made a deal with him because my receiving core group was really weak. So I traded him Russell Wilson for Keenan Allen, Justin Fields, and I think I got I might have gotten Jamal Williams from him. I can't remember if I got Jamal Williams from him or if I got somebody him off free agent. But anyway, I got another running back out of the deal too. No, yeah, that's what I got. Anyway, we were kind of lamenting the fact that neither one of those players that we traded for have helped our teams in the way they thought. But in the end, the deal worked out for both parties because both players have done diddly squat. So anyway, I'm picking Keenan. I got Keenan Allen too, and again, he's going against the Seahawks. And I've been referring to the Seahawks as the Fighting Geno Smiths, but I'm going to have to change their name because of how poor their defense is. You can't call a team the Fighting Anybody's if they're not fighting anybody on defense. So I'm changing that nickname for the Seahawks to the Flighting Genos because they're fleeing on defense but doing their best to fly on offense. Again, Allen still has a big Q, but the reports are trending upwards that he's going to play this week. So I'm keeping Keenan Allen in too.
Smart move.
Yeah.
Gutsy move. That's fine.
Yeah. At tight end this week, I have a dilemma. I went with Evan Ingram last week because he was playing against the Colts, and the Colts had really been struggling against the tight end position all season. And on paper, the Jaguars are going against the Giants. They have a favorable matchup, but they also had Indy. They had a favorable matchup against Indy, and it didn't work out. However, last week the Giants played the Ravens, and Andrews for the Ravens, who's their stud tight end, had a big game. But then Andrews is one of those top 3 tight ends that you don't take out unless something bad happens, he gets injured. So these are my options. I have Tyler Conklin from the Jets, but since Josh Wilson has come into the lineup, Conklin's targets have dropped, and now another tight end is back from injury that's going to steal more of his targets, which are few and far between already. So I think my best bet's probably going to be finding someone in free agency. So.
Yeah, I had to find somebody in free agency for my tight end this week. Noticed my other guy was on bye week this week, and so I ended up with Tanyan. And I'm hoping he pulls it off because he was like the 3rd on the list. The other 2 were out or questionable, and I was not taking a risk.
Makes sense. All right, moving on to the flex. I've had Deontay Johnson at the flex spot the last couple weeks. I was hoping to move James Conner back in there because he's a running back for the Cardinals. Gets rushing a lot like Eckler. He gets the rushing attempts and he gets the receiving targets. But with the short week, I'm not confident that he's going to play. Yeah. And I don't want to waste. You definitely don't want to waste that spot on Thursday night and have a big hole all week that you're going to have to overcome. So I could keep Deontay Johnson in there. Again, he's against the Dolphins, and it's another favorable matchup. However, Trubisky's throwing him the ball. And that concerns me. And while Johnson has a high volume of targets, his catches and yards and touchdowns do not reflect the amount of times he's been throwing the ball. So my other option is I have Allen Lazard, who I've been having at my receiver too, and he's put up some pretty solid numbers, and has 4 touchdowns in 4 straight games. So he scored in 4 straight games, and he's going against the Commanders, who are weak against receivers too. So that's where I'm struggling right now.
Yeah. My flex is questionable at the moment. It's Mostert for Miami, and I'm hoping that he plays. He did practice yesterday, so I'm cautiously confident, but I don't have a backup. Again, my entire bench is on bye week, and I'm not necessarily willing to get rid of my bench either. So
yes,
I might just take the risk this week and see how he does.
Rolling the dice.
Yes.
But that way, as Nazarenes, we're against gambling, so.
Well, I mean, it's 30 points.
That's true.
Possibly. Projected.
All right.
Again, I play the numbers.
All right. For defense, again, as I've shared before, I stream defenses. It really, to me, is all about who they're playing. Again, unless you can get that top-tier defense along in the draft, you're better off streaming. Unless, too, as sometimes when you're streaming defenses, you'll come across a defense that wasn't considered to be good, but as you use them for a week or 2 weeks in a row, you begin to realize, okay, this defense was better than everybody projected. They're worth hanging on to. I haven't found that yet this year. However, I made the change this week from the Bengals. I'm going to go with the Dolphins. The Dolphins are facing the Steelers, and they're either going to go against a rookie quarterback or Mitch Trubisky. Either way, I feel like I win. And, I don't know if I shared this in the podcast, but I think Mitch Trubisky, if you put his picture side by side with Adam Sandler from The Waterboy, it could be the same player. So maybe they have Trubisky on the wrong side of the ball. Maybe they just need to tell him water sucks and put him on the defense and see what happens. He might be the next TJ Watt. We don't know. But anyway, I went with the Dolphins for my defense this week.
Well, that's actually another reason why I chose the Cardinals earlier. It's because I looked at the projection for the Saints, and they haven't really been measuring up. I have them as my defense, and they've not really gotten the projected scores like ever.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, they're not the strongest defense against the Cardinals, so they can't really carry the team. But yeah, I'm sticking with them because my alternative is the Browns again.
Go Browns. All right. For kicker, I'm sticking with Ryan Suckup. Again, my team's name, Don't Be a Suckup. So to drop him, I don't know if that means I have to change my team name or just keep rolling. But it's kind of been fitting though with my team sitting at 1-5. Don't be a suck-up because we are sucking up the place. But other than that, I'm sticking with not changing my kicker unless I have to.
Yeah, I haven't changed my kicker all week or all season. It's Nick Folk.
Yeah. But
he's been good.
Yeah, but I will say,
We're
too,
decent.
Ryan Suckup has been the highest scoring kicker in our league twice. So that's the one thing I've had going for me all season is I've had one of the top kickers-ish. So, all right. So, again, like I told you, the Barnett Bowl is this week, Barnett Bowl Part 1. I'm squaring off against my brother Travis. Like I said, he's 0-6. I'm 1-5. He's projected for the win by 8 points. But...
Go Travis.
No. He's going down. All right. Now we're off to our picks for the primetime games. These are our Sunday night games and Monday night games. So for Sunday night, we have the Steelers versus the Dolphins. Considering how much I've been ragging on the Steelers quarterback situation. Again, I actually like Kenny Pickett. You know, I like the switch to him being the starter. And Trubisky's not the worst backup you could have. I mean, he's started enough games where he knows a little bit what he's doing. He just doesn't always make the best decisions and whatnot. But Dolphins with Tua back, the Dolphins are going to win this one.
Yeah, I actually went with the Steelers. I don't. It's not that I feel that the Steelers are strong enough to win. It's that I'm not confident that the Dolphins are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I went with the Steelers this week.
Yeah. Then our Monday night game, I'm so excited for this one. That's a lot of sarcasm. That's a lot of sarcasm. It's the Bears versus the Patriots. I've only picked against the Patriots once so far. Maybe twice. I don't remember.
Were you right?
No. So I'm not going to pick against Belichick. And the other reason I'm not picking against Belichick is you don't pick against Belichick against rookie quarterbacks. His defenses always demolish rookie quarterbacks. He's also going against a former assistant, and he seems to do very well against his former assistants too. I think the Patriots are going to get this one. I think the Zappy is going to... I don't know that he's going to be the reason they win, but he's not going to be the reason they lose because the Patriots are going to win.
Yeah, I went with the Bears.
Snap.
Yeah. We'll see. I didn't think about the fact that it was Belichick.
Yeah. But you're going to do your family proud by picking the Bears.
And I didn't pick the Packers.
You didn't pick the Packers. So, all right. One last segment before we wrap things up. We're going to do a segment I call Bye-Week Batmans. These are the players that you go looking at free agency for to shine, and you're going to sign the bat signal in the sky, hoping that they come and save your spot for that bye week of your stud player that's out. Or maybe these are guys that you're looking at. I need a hope. I need a reason to keep playing the game. I need someone to get me back on track. And you sign the back signal for these guys. But remember, I'm going to share with you the bye-week Batmans, but I'll also tell you the ones not to pick up because they're actually the Joker dressed up as Batman. You don't want the Joker dressed up as Batman. That's bad. All right. So, quarterback. The Joker of this week that you might be tempted to pick up is Zappy. Don't pick Zappy. Going against the Bears defense, your team will be zapped like a bug.
That's why I picked the Bears.
Yes. Yes, he's playing for the Patriots. Yes, I think he's going to play smart. But the Bears defense is better than you think. The reason why they're not winning games is because the offense hasn't gotten on track. That's part of the reason. But don't pick Zappy. But, however, a quarterback you should look at and think about getting is Jimmy Garoppolo from the 49ers. Because they're playing the Chiefs, and there's a good chance that the Chiefs offense figures out the 49ers defense, and this one starts to get out of hand. And if the game starts to get out of hand, guess who's going to be throwing the ball a gazillion times? Jimmy G. It doesn't matter how many interceptions he throws in this, he's going to be throwing the ball a bunch. Jimmy G. You're going to be saying Jimmy G for the G's for good game because you won. Again, this is for bye weeks. All right. Running back. Do not pick up Jermichael Hasty. He's a running back for the Jaguars. I don't even know where he's at on their depth chart. But if you go and look in free agency, he had a big game against the Colts last week. That's all. If you pick him up, that's all you're basing it on. And you're not even it's obvious that you actually haven't watched that game or listened to it because Hasty's yards and his touchdown came off of one play. And it was a rare mistake by the Colts defense that led up a huge rushing.
It was a fluke.
It was a fluke. So do not be hasty in making a decision to pick up Hasty. The guy you could pick up, though, is Sony Michel, the backup running back for the Chargers. Again, I know he's the backup. He's the RB2. But he's going to get some targets. He's going to get some carries against a Seattle defense that is terrible. So he may not be the stud, but for a bye week fill-in, he's worth rolling the dice for. All right, receiver, Joker, Tyquan Thornton. He's a Patriots receiver who had a big game last week. But for the same reason as Zappy's, do not get him. If you pick him up, expect that he will become a Thornton in the flesh. You don't want a Thornton in the flesh.
That's a bad pun.
I told you these were bad. These bye-week Batmans come with bad puns. That's what Batman's all about, is the bad puns. All right.
You're the epitome of dad jokes.
That's right. But a receiver you should pick up, you should think about adding to your fantasy team is People Jones from the Browns. Go look at his targets. There's only 2 games for the Browns where he's had less than 5 targets in the game. He's going to get looks, and he's a guy that can fill in at the receiver spot for you or in a flex spot if you can't find a running back. All right, tight end. Joker, do not pick up Hunter Henry. I actually started the season with Hunter Henry on my roster.
I'm sorry.
Yes. And do not pick up Hunter Henry for the same reasons that I said not to pick up Zappy. Zappy. I don't know who Zappy is.
All you have to do is look at your fantasy football.
Hey, if you're going into fantasy free agency and you walk out of fantasy free agency selecting a player named Zachy, you probably done messed up, right? I don't even know who that is. I don't even know a player with that name. But don't pick Zappy either. Don't pick Thornton, and don't get Hunter Henry because again you will be sad. I don't have a pun for this one. Maybe I know I'm hating on the Patriots offense after I just picked them to win the game against the Bears, but I'm just not comfortable. I don't think they're going to win the game because of their offense. I think they're going to wreak havoc on the Bears. So, but Batman at tight end, pick up one of the Colts tight ends. Because they're going against Tennessee, and Tennessee's 26th ranked against tight ends. I know there's 3 of them on the Colts. They aren't steady, but all 3 of them get action in the game, and all 3 of them are going to get targets, especially Jelani Woods down near the goal line. He's got, I can't remember the stat, but I want to say he's got 5 career catches and 3 of them are touchdowns. Something like that. So that tells you.
Yeah.
Who's Matt Ryan going to throw the ball down at the goal line? The big, tall basketball player guy.
Yeah.
Just makes too much sense. But Molly Cox is another guy that Ryan has been throwing the ball to quite a bit. And Granson, he's not the flashy tight end that the other 2 are, but he is the every down one. He's kind of becoming the go-to one out of the gate. So those are 2 tight ends to consider. Now the defense. This is the last group. Joker, do not pick up the Flighting Genos. Do not pick up the Seahawks defense. Why, for the love of Jesus, would you pick up the Seahawks? I will have to pray for you if you pick up the Seahawks defense. Not because I'm praying for you for your defense to win, but I'm praying that God will come and touch your mind because there's something wrong with it.
Yes.
You pick up the Flighting Genos, you will be struck by lightning. The LA Superchargers. So don't pick up the Flighting Genos. Now, who would I consider? I would pick up the Giants versus the Jaguars. Again, it's a blitzing defense going against a young quarterback. But will the Jags probably get some yards here and there? Yes. That's the danger of a blitzing defense. However, sacks and turnovers are what you want from a defense, right? That's how defenses score you the most points. You can't count on the keeping the yards down or the score down. Focus more on the sacks and the turnovers. So, you have any questions about faith or football? Be sure to check out the DirtPastormanPodcast.com. That's you can find my other podcast, the Dirt Pastorman Podcast. It's my weekly sermon from Ravenna Naz, uploaded in podcast form. Follow me on TikTok. I'm the Dirt Path Pastor on there. If you have questions about faith, send them to me. And Nicole, do you have any final parting thoughts to share with our viewers?
Don't take you too seriously.
Yeah, don't take me too seriously.